taking Valium for the last 20 years of their lives, and my uncle self-medicated by drinking. And I have other relatives on my mother's side who have been on antidepressant or anxiety medication for years. I have 2 daughters. One looks like me and my mother, and the other looks like my wife and my biological father. Guess what? The former has my anxiety and is on medications and in counseling, while the other daughter does not need medication. My genetic predisposition is just that, a predisposition I inherited that does not determine my behavior, but it does make getting anxious a lot easier for me than for those without the predisposition, all things being equal. My early childhood was traumatic. I learned how to worry by watching and absorbing my mother's constant fretting. After I got married and my mother was older, when my family and I went back to the Kansas City area to visit her and my stepfather, I kid you not, each door of their house had at least 6 locks on it, and they lived in a safe neighborhood. My mother looked at the world through the eyes of fear, and as I explore in the next chapter, anxiety is partly a learned habit, and I learned from the best. Besides that, my father contracted terminal cancer of the liver when I was 7 months in the womb. When I was 6 weeks old, my parents left me at my grandparents' home, and my mother took Dad to Jefferson City, where a radical surgeon, someone who had performed a risky, untested surgery on a patient who had no alternative, there was no guarantee the surgery would work, worked on my father and removed the cancer. Or so we thought. Eventually the cancer came back, and Dad died when I was 7 years old. I have vivid memories of his eyes being yellow, and of him reaching for a glass of orange juice, only to miss the glass and spill everything on the floor. I asked my mother, "Daddy is dying, isn't he?" But she dismissed the question. I was not allowed to grieve, but was constantly distracted with new toys, and was not permitted to go to his funeral after he died. My father never found himself. He always wanted to be a coach, but being a salesman was the only way he could provide adequately for the family. He hated his job and was discouraged most of the time. From the time of the radical surgery until his death in 1955, he and my mother were also on constant alert for the cancer to return. The job and the cancer was more than he could take. He was a good man, but a depressed one. 5 years later, when I was in 7th grade, my mom remarried. My stepfather, Larry, was a good and decent man, but he did not know how to relate to a son, though he tried, and he did not know how to express or speak about emotions. I left for college in 1966 with a lot of fear about being able to handle it. I also had a hole in my heart that could only be filled by finding real meaning in life. Fortunately, I found Jesus there in 1968 through Campus Crusade for Christ, and I joined the crusade staff for 5 years. After that, I went to Dallas Seminary, married my precious wife, Hope, halfway through seminary in 1977, and moved to San Bernardino, California, where we lived from 1979 to 1984. During that time, I taught at Crusade Seminary. My wife gave birth to our 2 precious daughters, Ashley and Allison, now married in their mid-30s and with 5 children. And I did an M.A. and a Ph.D. in philosophy under Dallas Willard. We moved a few times before settling in Yorba Linda, California, in 1990. And I have taught philosophy at Biola University ever since. Throughout these years, I was anxious and depressed from time to time, but not in any way that made me unable to function. That is until 2:30 a.m. on May 24, 2003, when all hell broke loose. Back to 2003. For 7 months I experienced daily panic attacks and felt intense anxiety except when sleeping. I could not see the world as it really is. I spent a lot of time for the first month or so lying on the couch because I did not have the energy to get up. I was afraid of irrational things. I was in fear every time I checked my email, and my heart would start pounding every time the phone rang. I could not drive on the freeway. It was too much stimulation. I could not attend my grandchildren's soccer games, and for about 6 weeks I could not have them in my home. I wanted to be left alone, so I often curled up in a ball and worried about everything. I can remember wanting desperately to get out of my own skin, but I was stuck in it. I never seriously